Is our Vessel Health Talk summer webinar series. We're going to be covering an educational overview of Vessel for ischemic conditions. This line is being recorded, and we'll be able to share with you the contents after the call. We've tried to calibrate this content really for all audiences. So if you're a patient who's interested in one of our studies, or if you're a physician or any other audience, we welcome you and appreciate your questions. We'll go for about 30 minutes. Please raise your hand in the chat or just add a comment. If you're interested in a follow-up call, please just type interested in the chat box and we'll be able to schedule some time afterwards. We're going to present data for about 30 minutes. Thomas and I are going to go back and forth a little bit. Thomas is our CEO. I'm our Chief Commercial Officer and focused on customer success. And we're excited to be together to talk about what we think is a transformative moment in time for regenerative medicine, but also an evolving regulatory landscape. So, in our discussion, we're going to continue to talk about, how important our FDA-approved pathway is for our phase 3 studies. That is paramount. Also, our global strategy, and then also some new information on state-level regulations, specifically around Florida and other states that are potentially coming online that have their own laws and regulations that we're going to talk about to help meet the needs of patients who've essentially run out of options. And we're going to talk about our absolute unwavering commitment to the highest standards of ethics and care. We're very focused on transparency. We want to talk about the regulatory environment, talk about the success, the safety, efficacy, any risk information so that everyone can see exactly who this treatment is for and who it's not for. So we will discuss that in detail. And you'll see at the bottom here, I'm listing some of the conditions in the vascular area from ischemic pain, limb-threatening ischemia, total body ischemia, neuropathic pain, vascular dementia. These are all exploratory opportunities for Vessel. And so if you're a patient and you see yourself in one of these conditions, or if you're concerned, please raise your hand and let us know. We would like to have a chat, potentially about some of the studies we may be offering. We're going to talk about some of our disclosures. This is not an FDA-approved treatment, and we're going to be talking about that sort of over and over. We're especially focused on the millions of people suffering from ischemic conditions where tissues are damaged due to lack of blood flow. For many, these are no option situations, right? Where there is indeed incredible suffering, chronic pain, non-healing ulcers, stemming from vascular disease. I think we're all concerned and focused on the impact of the Western diet, what that means to us. So any metabolic disease that can affect brain, your organs, skin, and anything we can do to help give your cells a fighting chance, we want to do that. Our disclosures, which we want to go through very carefully and repeat and be clear, is that Vessel is an investigational therapy under development, not approved by the FDA, available in specific countries around the world and a state, Florida. We believe that is appropriate, and we'll talk about that further. All treatments are subject to their health regulations in their respective countries and states. You may travel for treatment. Please consult with your physician. And as of now, these are out-of-pocket expenses that may not be covered by insurance. And we're going to talk a lot about innovative payment options that we're trying in every possible way to help patients get on therapy and afford therapy in the appropriate settings. And so that's a big part of our commitment to the community.
With respect to our disclosures, perhaps just a little bit of background. We have treated 498 patients safely with 9 publications completed, actually 10 now that we just published in the journal Biomedical Research Environmental Science. So very well published. Again, just maybe for those who are not familiar with hemostemix, we're a hematopoietic stem cell, meaning that the stem cells are generated from the patient's own blood. So it's autologous, and that has some significant advantages. And with respect to the disclosures, we're quite excited. I think the whole world, certainly the investing world, should be quite excited by Florida's lead. This opens commercial treatment in Florida for both autologous and allogeneic stem cells. And we will have further announcements on that, but I'm sure there will be investors on the call who will want to understand that in some more detail. So next slide, that would be great. And over to you, Karim.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Thomas. So just to continue to reinforce, before we get into strategy, restating our foundational commitment to safety, scientific rigor, and ethical compliance. We are going to be drawing a bright line between our global opportunities, our state opportunities, our FDA pathways, but also a bright line between our work and our publications and our science and that of unproven claims and unproven clinics. If anybody Googles stem cells, and you should, there's a lot of history. Every part of the strategy you'll see today is built on this bedrock of ethical conduct, scientific rigor, and respect for the regulatory process and the patients we aim to serve. So the agenda today: learn about Vessel, understand Florida. We'll talk a little bit about our studies, and then you'll hear from our leadership, like Thomas. So we're really excited to have you on the call and appreciate your time. The FDA Cell and Gene Therapy Roundtable of June was very illuminating. I hope everyone will take an interest in that and listen in. It's fascinating. There is a very significant pivot, which we can talk about, but the FDA is interested in listening and evolving. They're thinking, challenging how things were done. Cell and gene therapy holds promise, but it demands caution, transparency, and oversight. Overall, the roundtable to me highlighted common challenges at the industry level, but a lot of receptivity and excitement around the opportunity to heal, to cure, to get away from chronic therapy where you have to take a pill every single day. So, we're leaning into the future of longevity and into, an exciting time, which I think everybody in the call can understand. And Thomas, any comments from your perspective on that?
Yes. So to summarize 2 hours and 55 minutes of roundtable is not easily done, as we all know. But if you spend the time as we did, you'll see that this is a wholesale change in the FDA, in that they're really moving from what Secretary Kennedy called a $1.3 trillion colossal business of treating patients, treating pain, treating disease with a standard of care that is quite frankly, in his view, broken. And what they're attempting to do is move cell and gene therapy forward in a way that is ethical, is compliant, is scientifically based, but that is able to essentially move to precision care. They're moving away from the pill business model to I would say, a precision healthcare business model. And cell and gene therapy, especially autologous cell and gene therapy, is highlighted as a very promising future. That was they spend a lot of time, the scientists, the physicians, the treating physicians in the cell and gene therapy space did a great job of explaining how 40 years of progress has been made in the adult population, but there's been no progress in the pediatrics population, partly because the business model does not fit a big pharma business model. And so there's going to be a significant emphasis on pediatrics and on orphan diseases. And then lastly, I thought that the sort of the motto of being scientifically focused, but with a lot of common sense, using clinical data, is really bodes well for Hemostemix, bringing it back to us. We have significant clinical data, phase 1, phase 2 data, and so we really see this as an open door, and one that we can walk through with confidence that we're going to have a very fair hearing at the FDA. And today we'll discuss how we are moving from, on the one hand, a phase 3, how we will fund a phase 3 clinical trial, but how we will also move up the disease cycle. So we've had success treating the end stage of heart failure, whether that's congestive heart failure, ischemic or dilated cardiomyopathy, or angina. We've had success treating the end stage of peripheral arterial disease as critical limb ischemia. And we think the strategy makes a lot of sense, and that the FDA is very open to treating these diseases much earlier in the disease cycle. So we plan to do that in the form of a basket clinical trial, and you'll see a slide in our presentation today on how we have progressed to phase 2 and phase 3, and at that point I'll say some more on the basket clinical trial strategy. But this is a time that companies like Hemostemix, autologous cell and gene therapy companies have been long waiting for. It literally is the dawn of a new era and Hemostemix is in the right place at the right time.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. Okay. I'm going to just say a couple of words on the Florida law that has passed. It's been signed by the governor. It gives us very, very specific requirements to operate in the state of Florida. We will absolutely adhere to all the laws, mandates that include manufacturing and quality. So in that respect, Hemostemix is in a really strong place with our FDA certified clean room and our FDA registered facility on US soil. It's cytoamines. That's very exciting. The patient notice and advertising is one of the most important compliance points. And so our physicians that we will be working with and partnering with will post a notice in 40-point font that will read, "This notice must be provided to you under Florida law. This physician performs one or more stem cell therapies that have not yet been approved by the US FDA. You're encouraged to consult with your primary care provider before undergoing any stem cell therapy." So we will be posting that ubiquitously and everywhere so that every patient is clear on the requirements of informed consent. And so that is how we will begin to learn to operate in the Florida environment. We're excited about the opportunity. One of my favorite longevity visionaries, Peter Diamandis, who is excellent at communicating the megatrends, another fantastic read. I won't, spend too much time, but he also is a champion and acknowledges the cusp of our stem cell revolution. It is one of his favorite and greatest trends that he's talking about. And he discusses stem cells as one of the hallmarks as you age, relative to stem cell exhaustion, which occurs as we age, and the population of stem cells in our bodies diminish by orders of magnitude. And of course, that is worsened by vascular disease. One of his analogies that I think is very helpful to understand, just for the patients and anyone else on the call. But imagine your stem cells as a team of service technicians in your newly constructed mansion. The mansion is new and the technicians are young. They can fix everything perfectly. But as we age and the stem cells reduce in number, your mansion goes into disrepair and eventually crumbles. So he asked the question, what if you could restore and rejuvenate your stem cell population? And that is what we are all about. He also talks about lifespan and health span, lifespan being how long you live, health span is around vitality. And our goal is for you to live as long as you can, as healthy as you can in the most vital possible way. And that gives us a clear mission. We are focused on the crisis of ischemic disease, millions of sufferers, $414 billion cost for peripheral arterial disease, $200 billion cost for chronic limb ischemia. And so as we talk about no option patients who are at an inflection point in their decision, we are focused on who is appropriate for Vescel and who is not. And our conversations with our patients are, what options do you have? And is Vescel appropriate for you? Is restoring your blood flow, going to help relieve symptoms or relieve disease in organs, limbs, skin, brain, really everywhere? So we will now shift to, how does ACP-01 work? It's a multimodal platform, and Thomas, you'll jump in and correct me. But what is really transformative and exciting, even in my own career arc, having started off in small molecule, big pharma in the late 90s, coming through the biologic phase, working on Humira, Rinvoq, Skyrizi, the Dupixents, et cetera, now to really incredible functionality within one therapy where Vescel, is demonstrated now to improve blood cell formation. It migrates right to the site of the damage. It helps to heal and regenerate. It has an anti-inflammatory effect, which then reduces pain, reduces further tissue damage. And it's just massively transformative to have this capability, especially as it's coming from your own blood in a simple blood draw in a way that is, transformative for care. It's unrivaled and unmatched. And so I'll pause there. Thomas, any other commentary on that for now?
Yeah, so obviously Vescel ACP-01 is transformative. It does regenerate circulation where the body signals that need, and in so doing, it reduces pain. And under Florida's SB 1768, it's really focused. That law is really focused on the use of stem cells to treat pain. And if you are using AI models, as we all are now, if you query on the pain associated to each of the diseases that we have treated and that we have published on, you will note the significant pain that each individual that is suffering from each of those diseases is under. So what we have is a clear path in Florida to treat each of the indications that we have treated to date, and others which we will be taking on. They're vascular in nature as well. And so that is a one point I want to make. The second point I want to make, which is the longevity space. Longevity is the hottest topic in stem cell therapy space, and we a number of years ago patented your fountain of youth. And while that sounds perhaps cliche, it does, in a phrase, describe, one, how ACP works, and two, the longevity space. What we want to do, and the question I would ask you is, why would you wait to the end stage of the disease cycle to use ACP? And so I think we all come to the conclusion that we've worked hard. We, if we're lucky enough to face retirement, we want to do so in the best health possible. And ACP really does offer a regeneration of the circulatory system to give you the best quality of life, and that we will show. We will continue to show in our clinical trial studies, and we will publish on that. That will be an endpoint quality of life that you will see time and time again come up from Hemostemix in our studies.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to quickly just touch on on two clinical studies that I think are very interesting, and we won't go too deep. I would encourage everyone, if you're interested, to read in detail and have a look at the evidence and the data that we're accumulating. This is a re-examination of phase 2, a phase 2 study around critical limb ischemia that has a high prevalence of 1.33% in the United States and high mortality, especially by the 4th year or 5th year after an amputation. The endpoints in the study were changes in ulcer size and major amputation or death within 1 year of treatment. The results of this study reflect a decrease in ulcer size from 1.46 centimeters to 0.48 by 3 months.
Millimeters, right?
Sorry, millimeters. Sorry, yes.
You're going from 1.46 centimeters squared to 0.48 millimeters squared, which is very significant.
Yes, and with a pretty rapid onset of action within 3 months is interesting. I will note this is a small sample size, so we could say there are directional improvements in amputation rate reduction and mortality. Further studies that are appropriately powered are warranted. The conclusion of the study is that ACP-01 is safe and associated with reduced ulcer size and may be associated with the rate of amputation and death. Thomas, anything more on that?
So just 236 million people worldwide suffer from peripheral arterial disease, the earlier form of critical limb ischemia, and approximately 10% of them, 23 million, have critical limb ischemia, and approximately 5 million limbs are amputated each year. So and there's a 60% mortality rate in that limb amputation patient population within 5 years. So the fact that we're demonstrating statistically significant wound healing at 3 months is really significant. And if you look at the earlier two phase 1s that we did, one an open label where 83% of patients treated saved the limb from amputation, and the Hungary study where there were 20 patients all followed for 2 years, randomized, 10 to receive treatment, 10 to receive the standard of care. In the standard of care group, there were 2 deaths and 6 of 8, 75% of limbs amputated in that 2-year period. In the treatment group, there was 0% mortality and 7 of 10 limbs saved from amputation. So this is our leading candidate for a phase 3 study. We're working on really designing that phase 3, simplifying the primary endpoints, and looking at quality of life, because obviously, if you know anything about this disease, when you lose circulation, your pain level increases, and those suffering from critical limb ischemia are described as suffering in pain on a scale of 10 as a 10 out of 10. And so you can imagine that if you can bring relief, new circulation to the body where it signals that need, and reduce pain, then you are really improving quality of life.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so this we'll just cover this one other study, and we'll keep moving here as we'll probably go another 5 or 10 minutes before we can get into Q&A. But this particular study, safety and outcomes analysis of implantation of ACP-01 for the treatment of cardiomyopathy, really was a huge milestone and breakthrough in the sort of the history of stem cell as related to improvement in left ventricular ejection fraction, going from a mean of 14.6 to 28.4%, with improvements in quality of life statements, 66% reflecting improvement, 28% no change, and 6% worsening. So that's a big milestone for us, Thomas. Do you want to weigh in on that one while we
Sure.
have
Yeah, so this is really, the gold standard in the treatment of cardiomyopathy. There's really two forms of cardiomyopathy that are studied here retrospectively. The first is the buildup of plaque in the arteries, and the second is the remodeling of the heart due to, it could be genetic factors. The first ischemic is known as ischemic cardiomyopathy, the second as dilated cardiomyopathy. And the company has, this is the third study done by 3 independent teams that generates the same statistically significant results. And the gold standard in the treatment of heart disease is improvement in the volume of blood generated with each heartbeat. And that is exactly what each of these 3 studies demonstrates. And that is why Hemostemix is, different and a very significant company that is focused on the treatment of heart disease. We also have a 4th study in the area that's not touched on here, but in the area of angina, where we were, obviously angina is pain. Angina is treatable in Florida. Now imagine if you're an angina patient and your symptoms go from chest pain at rest, meaning you are afraid to exercise, you can't get up, you can't move around because you're literally in pain. And those symptoms decrease from chest pain at rest to only having chest pain during exercise. Those are the results that were generated in our angina phase 1. And so if you, so we would encourage you to read our published literature.
Great. And do you want to touch on these results, Thomas?
Sure. So this goes back to the critical limb ischemia, demonstrating in the top slide, top left, a limb, this individual suffering pain 10 out of 10, and they have ulcerating wound on the toe that's becoming gangrenous. This is a limb that needs to be amputated, and that is the same foot 4 weeks later, where you can see rejuvenated circulation to the toes, feet, and obviously the leg. And that is for this patient, that is literally a miracle. And you can imagine 5 million of these individuals sitting at home on a pain scale of 10 out of 10, looking for a solution like ACP.
Fantastic. And how about our pipeline? Would you cover off on this for us?
Sure. So this demonstrates, that we are phase 3 ready. We have treated, obviously, these other indications. We've announced our interest in treating vascular dementia. We have a very interesting clinical case, Mrs. Lamb, who was treated for vascular dementia. A very moving story where I interviewed her some, I think, 9 years later. And in the 12-minute call, she talks about her social calendar like we talk about our social calendar. She took us through her literally her life history, but then she had the gravitas to invite the treating physician out for lunch to thank him again for giving her life back. Now, I don't know about you, Kroom, but I've noticed that at 63, I'm not the same guy I was at 43, and that is a circulatory issue, and so that's one thing I want to say here. The second thing I want to say is that you see chronic wound care and total body ischemia. These are other indications that are that can be treated with ACP. Last thing I want to say on this slide is that if you look at each of these in order, think about the disease cycle and treating this disease cycle earlier in the disease cycle. And this really is what the FDA is talking about. The standard of care today is to get on a medication or several medications and ride the slippery slope to its appropriate conclusion. At the end stage, only at the end stage today is ACP a treatment for these various diseases. And the FDA has said that model does not work. That model costs the US $1.3 trillion a year and they are not willing to let that model persist. So now what Hemostemix will do is get in lockstep with the FDA on this and look at each of these diseases at the earlier earlier stage of the disease cycle. And we're going to complete a basket protocol, file a basket protocol with the FDA to treat each of these indications as early as possible in the disease cycle. And that is very exciting for Hemostemix and for these patients, quite frankly.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Thomas. Okay, so I'll go. We have a couple of 2 or 3 more slides. I'll try to land the plane here. The point here is that we're focused on helping our patients really make the right decision for them to get to the right clinic, to get to a place where they can feel confident and comfortable to make a decision. So this is our 4-point guide where we're going to be helping our patients and physicians understand how to select treatment to make sure that it's personalized for them. There's published clinical evidence, good manufacturing practices and accreditation, and in the right regulatory setting. This is what leads to safe and effective medication. We also believe that complete care matters, and certainly in the context of vascular disease or metabolic diseases like diabetes and all the other ones that we know about, having a complete health plan is very helpful. So we will talk about cognitive wellness. We will talk about a fantastic AI-powered cognitive test we'll use in our dementia trial, having comprehensive diagnostic workups, insights to inform wellness plans, and then long-term monitoring, and any support on travel and accommodations and logistics to make sure everybody and their family can understand the value and participate in care. 3 reasons to join our community. And we use the word community very specifically because we're welcoming in absolutely everyone who's appropriate, whether they're patients, physicians, regulators, people from states and countries, and investigators of all kinds, given the complexity of the solution we're bringing forward. But right now we're focusing on early access for those with urgent needs, especially those in pain level 10 that Thomas is referring to, focusing on the outcomes and then empowering and learning in our community, et cetera. Finally, let's not wait for vascular disease to steal more from you. Consider these steps. Please type interested in the chat if you'd like to have a follow-up call with us, schedule a consultation with our medical officer or one of our savings specialists, and just please feel welcome to join us. And we're excited now to take your questions. And thank you for bearing with us for the last 35 minutes or so. I'll stop sharing and would just love to welcome any discussion or feedback. And you could type it in the chat, or I will raise your hand and I will take you off of mute.
And
so Steve,
I just wanted to perhaps talk about the the patient's ability to pay and our focus. Obviously, this is I know we touched on this. This is for pay currently. We think that the basket strategy will generate statistically significant results, and that will generate pay or insurance reimbursement for those individuals who are on insurance and can't afford pay. Secondly, we've been in discussions with certain firms about essentially a payment model where patients could sign up and pay for the treatment over time. And lastly, Dr. Henderson has been very generous, not only with his time, but he has personally founded a foundation that will focus on raising funds for individuals who cannot afford to be treated. And as a neurosurgeon, as a war veteran of the Gulf campaign, as a commander of the U.S. Navy, he obviously has some soft spots for his comrades, and is initially going to focus that on veterans. But we essentially, what I want to say is, in addition to the treatment convertible debentures where we offer 6% interest on your funds, on your therapy funds, while we hold them and use them to build out our operations, we will have a payment plan, and we are working on raising funds for Dr. Henderson's foundation. And that may be something as simple as, for a high net worth individual who is treated, we'll make them aware of the foundation. It may be, buy one, give one. It may be something as simple as that. But we have a robust business model, and you'll see further announcements on the the treatment convertible debentures and on each of these other mechanisms to pay for ACP.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. Steve, I think I see your hand up. Do you have a question for us?
Yes, this is Steve. First of all, Thomas, thank you very much for doing all this wonderful work. We're excited to be able to work with you guys. One of the questions I had, well, actually two, Gemini ET, our technology group, as we discussed earlier with Thomas, we're deploying population health solutions all around the world. We're certified United Nations. One of the areas I'm really interested in knowing is it a good practice to start looking at epigenetic profiles for patients as well, other than just their age, location, and what their conditions are?
Yes, I think in the full service model, you would certainly want to do a genetics analysis of the patients and understand, do they have a predisposition to cardiovascular disease or to the disease you're treating, and then in the in the case of the epigenetics, what are the lifestyle choices that they currently have that are generating the velocity of that disease? And is there coaching available? Are there other mechanisms that are available in their community that they can tap into? So while that is, that's a very fulsome model, it makes a lot of sense because people, if you're going to pay to be treated, I think you've made a very significant lifestyle choice, and then you want to round that out with all of the other lifestyle choices that can support your enjoyment of the health that you have.
Excellent, excellent. Can I ask one more follow-up question?
Please.
Yes, Jim, our company, Thomas knows a little bit about who we are. We're deploying around different parts around the world, Africa, Europe, etc. Would it be viable to think that in the future we'll be able to have a lab there to treat people as well in those parts around the world, draw locally from the population? I'm just asking, just a commercialization program. That's all in the future.
Yes, so we have a great partner in Cytoimmune. They have the capacity to generate all the ACP that we need, and we look forward to building out. They have 37,000 square feet of space. They have under construction a number of other clean rooms that were at the 60-70% completion stage last time I was in Puerto Rico, and with the complete equipment and everything they need to go from 70% to 100% on premise. So it's yeah, we couldn't get a better partner.
We could scale out.
With the ability to scale. And and if you look at the agreement we have with Cytoimmune, they're a true partner. They recognize what we have in terms of technology and are very interested in participating in our equity.
Excellent, excellent. One last tiny question. The clean rooms that we need to have available, or later on as we build portable units, or we use them for disaster areas, for example, what level of clean room does it need to be? An ISO 7, 5, 3? What would be the sort of ideal condition?
Yeah, it's an ISO 5.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Well, that's just the extent of my questions. You guys are doing phenomenal work, by the way. Congratulations.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else would like to raise their hand? It takes at least 30 seconds to form questions. We're very happy to wait. And so, thanks for forming. Any other additional questions or feedback, and we'll just hang on the line here if there's anything else. Just pause. While we're waiting for your questions to come in, if there's anything else, let me just say thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us. And we are excited that you're here, and thank you for being a part of our community. And are there any other questions, or Thomas, any other feedback that you'd like to offer in closing here?
Well, I think
I do see Tim coming in, but
let me just make a pitch for the stock, HEM on Toronto, 2VFO in Frankfurt, HMTXF in the US. If you look at our valuation, it's we have long suffered from being listed on a Canadian exchange. Biotech has gone through what the industry has called the nuclear winter of biotechnology, which was essentially the COVID time frame and then post-COVID. But that has come to an end. There's some, I think it was something like over 200 billion invested in 2024 in biotech. A number of M&A deals, the largest of which was about $1 billion valuation. This for in the NK cell space, natural killer cell space. That is descriptive of a biotech company that solved one indication. Hemostemix is treating a number of indications in the circulatory space, including heart disease, #1 killer worldwide, including critical limb ischemia, peripheral arterial disease. So with a valuation of $20 million, I think it is, if you have risk capital, I would suggest that you should join directors and officers who have invested approximately $10,600,000 since March of 2020 in our equity, and have done so with eyes wide open. So I would encourage you to join us. Thanks, Grim.
Thank you, Thomas. I think, Tim, you might have a question for us. And you might be on mute. We can just jump in, Tim, when you're ready. I do see a question from James. Thank you. How soon do you see treatments beginning in Florida, and what kind of ramp up do you anticipate? So, Thomas, may we ask you to answer that one as well, please?
So we long ago, approximately would be about 6-8 months ago now, forecast that we would be in production in Q4 of this year, and that we would have first treatments in Q4 of 25. Then we would be treating at approximately a rate of 20 patients a month initially, and ramping it up from there. The reason we went with the forward sales program, the therapy convertible debentures, is because it enables us to forecast production from pre-revenue and from sales of pre-revenue treatments, and also schedule physician time in the most logical format. So in our case, we've published that in US dollar terms, $37,000 US for one therapy, not including physician and clinic costs. That is, round numbers, 50,000 Canadian, and so each 20 a month is $1 million or $12 million of revenue a year, and that's a very simplified business plan. But you can think of it that you will see us announce we'll continue to announce the forward sales of therapy convertible debentures, in addition to the other payment plan and donation plan. But I think the best leading indicator of the company will be the forward sales of the therapy convertible debentures. So you'll know if we're tracking at a rate of 20 a month, 40 a month, 80 a month, and so on. To put 80 a month is, and this is partly the reason that autologous stem cell therapy has not been rewarded with valuations. But if you think of if you think of one physician doing 4 blood draws a day, working 20 days a month, that's 80 patients a month for Hemostemix. And I was at a Life Labs recently to get a blood test, and I asked the nurse who was drawing my blood how many blood draws she did a day, and she, without blinking, she said 50 to 60. So I think it's very conservative to expect a physician who has a practice in Florida treating critical limb ischemia, who has a nurse within the practice who can do a blood draw, to do 4 blood draws a day. So you'll see, I think you're going to see a lot of joy by buying our stock here at 15 cents or less.
Thank you, Thomas. Tim, I see your hand. How can we help you, Tim? If you're still with us. I do see Tim has a question that says, is the tech transfer still on schedule for late Q3, Q4 with cytoimmune? Not sure if you've answered that yet.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. Tim, does that get you what you need? All right. Jump in. There's one or two more here, Thomas. One is, what does the treatment journey look like for a patient?
So think of it like this is actually what makes the company and the technology very scalable. A patient can go to a Life Labs or can go to their doctor's office, or in fact, a nurse practitioner can do a blood draw in the patient's home. And that is what we call day zero. And that can be done anywhere in the world. That 250 cc's of blood is shipped in a temperature controlled container to Hemostemix at Cytoimmune, where it is converted into ACP day 1 through day 5. On day 6, it goes through a quality control, quality assurance check while it is in transport back to the treating physician, who on day 7 is in a pre-scheduled appointment with the patient. If it's a limb patient, it's as simple as an outpatient procedure done in any doctor's office, where the doctor receives 3 ready-to-use 10 cc syringes and makes 31 cc injections into the limb of the patient suffering from critical limb ischemia. If it's a heart patient, the cardiologist will be in a preset appointment with that patient in a cath lab, and the patient will undergo what is very similar to a balloon angioplasty, like release of ACP in the collateral arteries feeding the heart. And in the treatment of vascular dementia, we're going to be using a CSF, cerebral spinal fluid, lumbar puncture to deliver ACP into the CSF to get it into the brain. And lumbar punctures, if you talk to a neurosurgeon like Dr. Henderson, this is very routine. Again, something that could also be done in an outpatient-like setting, but obviously, to Kroom's earlier point, we're going to be following the most stringent of medical and ethical guidelines.
Yes, thank you. And then Thomas, I think finally I see a question from Tim. What are the additional states that are moving forward to allowing stem cell treatment? Utah was mentioned in the registration page, and you and I were chatting a little bit about that this morning. But do you want to comment on our overall state strategy?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to see, it's Utah, Wyoming, it's some of the red states, as they're called, but they're I think that you're going to see a wholesale change on a state-by-state basis, because this is significant business. It's a significant step forward for individuals who live in those states, and and it just is logical. I mean, what harm can you do using stem cells that are generated from your own body to treat yourself? That it's logical. So I think you're going to see a very significant number of states come on board, and we'll be leading the charge. I've offered our services. I've offered our professionals, Dr. Henderson, our Chief Scientific Officer. We are making ourselves available to regulators and to legislators to get passage of laws like SB 1768 in Florida.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're down to 5 minutes. This has been really great. Any other questions, or we can give everybody 5 minutes back? Or Thomas, if there are any other closing remarks, we're at the end here.
Yep. Just again, thank you very much. If you're a current shareholder, thank you very much. If you're not a current shareholder, I would encourage you to become one. And if you think about it, if you were to buy $50,000 of stock and it doubled, you could literally sell half, buy a treatment, and ride the other half to another double. So it's I think it's a great investment, obviously, but it is a risk. This is risk capital, all the same.
Okay. Thank you to everybody for your time today. We appreciate it. Hope you'll join us again. We'll be holding these every Thursday. Everyone in our community is welcome, patients, physicians, regulators, investors. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate your feedback. Please reach out if you'd like to schedule a follow-up call. We'd be happy to get back on the line with you to talk about anything else. Okay, Thomas, thank you so much for your time.
Likewise.
And everybody can have 4 minutes back. We appreciate you all very much. Thank you.